Welcome to the Show Me Podcast with your host, Geoff Livingston. Every episode, a guest joins Geoff and discusses how images tell stories and what makes them work or not.
Hi, everybody. My name is Geoff Livingston, and this is the Show Me Podcast, where we talk about images, photography, and how they help tell great stories and the impact that those stories make on the various people that they represent or the brands that they represent. And today I have a very, very special guest. Her name is Sharon Farmer. She has been one of the most important figures in Washington, D.C. photography, both on a national level at the White House and with the city, and also culturally for African American and female photographers. So with that, I want to say hi, Sharon.
Yo.
How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for making it in. And today, our engineer is Panama, who may or may not be commenting, but we always like to introduce our engineer and say, thank you. So, Sharon, first of all, just for context sake, people don't know necessarily who you are, but you will be keynoting the Click DC conference this, I think, May and June. And people should check you out. That's going to be a fantastic conference. It's actually, I think, called Focus on the Story, but it's part of the Click DC Festival, just so our friend Joe Newman doesn't come out and kick my butt on the podcast here. But on top of that, you were pretty much considered a very almost radical photographer in the 70s and 80s. And then you became the director of White House photography for Bill Clinton, and now you are considered one of the elder statespersons of the industry and somebody that people look up to. So, I'm really honored to have you talk with us. And I wanted to start out by talking about a few famous presidential images.
Sure.
And the first one I wanted to talk to, because it kind of segues into a larger conversation before we talk about Clinton, is Nancy Reagan sitting on Mr. T's lap. That famous photograph where she sat on his lap for Christmas, and it was, I guess, Mr. T. Claus. It was such a crazy image and so wild and fun, and it encompasses everything about the 80s in a very weird way. What are your thoughts about the story that image tells?
Well, it tells more about the A-team and the effect that television was having on politics, government, as well as office stuff that goes on. Iconic image because Mr. T looks like himself, and Mrs. Reagan looks like herself.
Right.
It's true. Opposites do attract. So that's a fun picture because so much goes on that's not fun behind the scenes, be it government, be it television or movies or entertainment. This is a really brief moment of levity because when that shot is over, we're all going back to where we were. Because we don't make enough progress that good times like that continue. So consider it one shot across the bow that we can have good times together. Black folk and white folk, male and women, we can do this.
And she's so petite in that photo, sitting on his lap. I mean, she almost looks like a doll, right? Because she's so elderly in a way,
But remember back in those days, to be a size 2, 1, or a 0 was considered a perfect female form. And she took great pride in her size. Now, I, on the other hand, earn every ounce I got.
You look delightful.
Take pride in myself because it's still about the attitude you keep and the spirit you hold. And I make sure I keep good company. And I don't hang out with knuckleheads. If you got some knucklehead stuff in mind, I'm out.
This must be my last 30 minutes with Sharon Farmer. All jokes aside, I think it's an interesting thing, too, that you mentioned TV with this particular shot, because obviously Reagan was an actor, right?
Yes.
And Kennedy was a very iconic, well-photographed president, right? Like, in fact, in many ways, he was the first iconic, well-photographed president. But Reagan took it to a new level, right? Like, here's a guy that clearly understood the value of a press op, right?
Oh, for real.
And a photo op. Can you discuss how, like, he was so well photographed, whether it was the Giants dumping, I guess it was Cheetos or popcorn on him, all the way through to the...
It was really more his manager, his handler, when he started to run for office. Riding like you were coming from the country club was not going to get you any votes in middle America or down south.
That's true.
So you put on a cowboy hat, got some cowboy boots, got a big horse, and you know how to handle it after some lessons. So we got sold what I call a bill of goods. Don't you want this cowboy? After Roy Rogers, who didn't want a cowboy coming to their rescue? All right?
Right.
So this was another continuum of how things are pictured, how people are photographed. What subliminal message do you want to get from this outer space?
Right.
Because the bottom line is they're trying to sell you something. Photojournalism is trying to sell you on the truth.
Right.
Pictures set up to have a photo op are trying to sell you on a good feel minute, because that's all it's going to carry.
Right. And that's definitely what Reagan was doing. I mean, like, he always looked very likable, very strong and tall. And, you know, again, for people that don't know, Ronald Reagan was known for second B movie westerns and spaghetti westerns.
Yes,
and
comedies.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, when you look at his stuff, you feel like it's just definitely PR and branding. Is that correct?
Yes, for me.
Yeah. So let's talk about Obama in context with that, because, you know, and I know Lawrence Jackson, I'm sure you do too, and those guys, and they did a great job photographing Obama. But one of the things that kind of came through, at least with a lot of his images, was this kind of ironic sense of like, I know this is a press op and I'm making fun of it. I mean, do you think his personality came through with his photography? How do you change that moment?
You can't change a moment. Honestly, all you can shoot is what you see. And after that, it's timing. What part of your finger is going to go down when? And is your brain in sync with your finger to get something different? That's why no matter how many photographers are at an event, none of us are seeing the same thing. None of us are triggering our cameras at the same time. And the people who do motor drives, more power to them.
Right.
But some of us take great pride in trying to hit it on the hit.
The decisive moment,
The decisive moment, for real. I mean, I don't want Andre Carter-Bresson to think he died in vain. If I don't remember another thing about that guy.
I just want his Leica.
I say yes, except they're really old now, man. You'd be lucky to get one roll of film through there.
No kidding.
But it matters how we perceive, and we are just the extensions of our eyeballs and our brains as we try to tell the people we're working with the messages we're trying to deliver about what's being pictured here in this photograph.
Sure.
Every president has his style. Every human being, really, they have their style too. But when you're president, there's this other thing that comes with, you know, you're leading a few people who believe in what you're trying to get done. Right. Now, we're all not on board with some of your programs, but dang if they didn't make a great photo op. And dang, you think part of that message got through? Yeah, it got through. How long is it going to last? Depends on what follows behind that first message, behind that second message. This is a long game. This is not no sprint. This is a long race.
So what do you think of Obama based on the photography that you saw come out of that White House?
Well, the best part about it was good photography. A lot of us felt that perhaps everybody didn't get the same opportunities to shoot the behind-the-scenes stuff with President Obama. But each director of photography runs their office their way. Some of us share in everything because it makes a broader palette of how things can be pictured, thought about, and maybe my brain is not wired like your brain, so I'm going to find a different kind of angle, and I'm going to decide it's a different kind of decisive moment. I think that the more photographers you have, the better the competition, right? Even with your peers who work in the press gang. Because my privileges as a White House photographer allow me to step away from the other photographers and look at things in a different angle, even if I ran with them as a press pooler. When I worked for President Clinton, the name of the game was two with the president all the time. One's a body person, not missing a handshake, not missing people up close. The second person is running with the press pool until I decide it's boring over here. Let me go find another angle. Right. And because I have a pen that says I have clearance, I can go. Now, some people out of town don't know that. But it all worked out because in the end, I stay out of trouble. I take pictures that the press can't get. I see other angles. I'm a full visual 360 degree, whatever's going on in front of me. At some point, I turn around, look what's behind me. because really photography takes in 360 degrees way before we had our panoramic cameras. So be challenged. Enjoy the challenge.
Right.
And I celebrate the photographers who get better images than me, because it means that competition is good, art is even better, and the human condition, hey, I got some enthusiasm about that.
Right. Take us through how the Clinton thing happened, right? Because apparently, from what I've read, you were really surprised when you got that call, but you never know what you're reading online, whether or not that's true. To tell us what kind of happened and how you ended up in the Clinton White House as director of photography.
It's a longer story than that, because even before he was elected, we were watching as a group, my art friends, my dancers, my visual people, my musicians. We're watching the returns the night of the election at a friend's house having potluck, Gideon Farabee and Leroy Sutton's house. And somebody says, "Wow, Farmer, wouldn't it be wild if you got to be his photographer?" And I said, "Hey, I don't work for government. You know about government. I know about government." And they all teased me some more because I was taking lots of arts photos around the D.C. area. D.C. Space was my hang spot.
Right.
Coffee house in Northeast run by Ray Melrose and Gary Williams. There's a lot to be said about the environment you run around in. It gets to the point you can handle anything and love it all, because everything brings a new revelation visually you didn't expect, and something for your mind you hadn't thought about. And then if you find yourself in discussion with those same people you're shooting and watching and photographing, there's an evolution going on inside my head that makes me think I'm getting smarter, because this is information I didn't have before. And it started with the visuals. Don't think photography can't lead somewhere. Yes, it does too. But 5 of us had gotten together from my photo group. At the time, we were still called Positive Image. We're now called the exposuregroup.org. And we decided we were going to submit a portfolio to get some of the business of the inaugural. So we submitted our portfolio, the 5 of us. We ain't hear nothing. By now, President Clinton has won the election. And we're like, damn, we ain't heard nothing yet. So the person who was a point person is still making inquiries and all this good stuff. And then one day I'm trying to knock out a bunch of prints early in the morning. My black and white dock room sits in the furnace room in the basement of the house. And I'm trying to get these prints done before noon. I get a phone call and somebody says, "Hi, my husband wants to hire you to da-da-da-da-da." And I'm like, yeah, right. One of my friends playing a joke. And she's like, "No, the President of the United States." And as soon as I heard that, I hung up again. When she calls back the 3rd time, she says, "Hey, listen, you. We were at a party last night, and half the room knows you and your phone number." And then she says, "Whose house she was at?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And she says, "My husband's going to be President Clinton's photographer, and he wants you to work with him. And he's going to call you in a few weeks, at the month at the latest." I said, "Yeah, okay.
Yeah, sure, right.
And he think nothing about it. Went back to try and get my prints out and get them delivered to the client on time. And damn if it wasn't true.
That's awesome.
A month goes by, and then maybe a few days after that month, he calls and says, "Hi, my name is Bob McNeely. I want you to work with me, and I'll be in touch, okay?" And I said, "Sure." Saying to myself, So a few weeks before the inauguration, get another phone call, and they're about to do the, what do you call that thing, the Lincoln Memorial program before the actual inauguration. And Bob is telling me to meet this guy at this tree at this time on this date. And I'm like,
okie dokie.
right.
And where's the deposit, buddy?
Man. So I found the tree, found the guy. Next thing I know, I'm working, and I'm like, wow. He throws these badges on me and shows me where to go stand. And all the photographers and video people I've worked through the years are like, "What's freelancers up here? Look at here. Hey, Sharon Farmer, welcome." And I'm like, is this what it's like for real? But I'm hanging, and most of the photographers know me. And while I'm up there getting ready, looking for the shot, knowing I can't move out this spot where I'm now at, and I'm going to be happy here no matter what, some Secret Service agents come along, and they say, checking everybody's credentials, look at mine, go, no, come down. Huh? But no, you don't, nope, those are not the credentials. And I'm like, So I come down, and I go back and find that same guy again. And his name is Sam Myers, bad, wonderful guy. And Sam throws some more badges on me and says, "Go back." So I go back again, and somebody's in my spot. And everybody else up on the stand says, no, Sharon was here first. Give her back her spot. You know how Secret Service does everybody. Let Sharon have her spot.
Right.
So I get my spot back. I'm like, phew, man, I hope this is all over. So I'm up there getting ready again. Here come another group of people looking at all the badges going, nah, you got to come down. I'm like, what again? So I go down. Sam's not the tree. But I just happened to look at a trailer, and I said, that looks like that guy. I went in the trailer, sure enough, it was Sam. I'm saying, hey, man, everything he had around his neck, he threw on me. I said, go back. So I go back. So that's how I started.
That's crazy. So, I mean, how many years were you there for Clinton? The whole time, or?
It was 8 years
Wow.
of really cool joy, because you begin to understand how government works and how it doesn't. And I'm quite clear, if you don't vote, you do not have a nickel in the quarter.
Boy, we sure learned that last time, didn't we? That's terrible. But we're not going to talk about that guy today. Tell me, how transformational was that for your photography? I mean, you probably look at yourself before you walked into the White House, and you look at yourself afterwards, and it must be almost like going through a warp zone.
No, it was more transformational for people who know me. My mom and dad, my friends, who said, Sharon, what you gonna do with your hair? And Sharon, what you gonna wear? And my mother's talking about, yeah, we're gonna go to the hairdresser, gonna get you some new clothes. I'm like, Mom, hold on. And she said something about my hair. I said, I'm not dyeing, frying, or laying it to the side. And my mother looked at me, she says, well, you have wonderful clothes, so you just make sure you wear them. And I do. I dress, I iron my stuff, but I was not gonna fry my hair. I was not going to dye my hair. I wear my gray with pride. I earned every gray. To change yourself because of any job. Why? I'm a freedom lover.
Right.
I went to Ohio State University. I've been through some stuff.
Buckeyes.
Buckeyes, they are there.
My wife went there as well.
See? So you can't go to a job and change, because then you are not genuine, not even to yourself.
There's no authenticity there.
And I don't want to ever be unauthentic to me.
But did your skills evolve while you were there? Did your take on photography, or was it you're like, I'm Sharon Farmer and I'm still Sharon Farmer?
We're all, there's 4 of us.
Right.
We're like a jazz band. We're playing our instruments a little different key change, but we are rolling because none of us see the same.
4 photographers in the White House.
4 photographers in the White House.
Right.
Bob McNeely, Barbara Kinney, Ralph Allswang, and me.
Right.
None of us see the same. And I contend that Bob hired us for that reason, because we all had our own reputations about how we covered and did our work. And Bob, the best compliment any photographer could get is Bob told me, I could tell your work before I read the byline.
Oh, that's awesome.
Before I read the credit.
You have a distinguished look.
That's different. So it's enthralling. It's beautiful. And then you got the president and the first lady telling you, you shoot what you like, because we bet we're going to like it too.
That's great.
I'm like, these are different, folks.
Yes.
And then you watch how well they get along with Al Gore and Mrs. Gore. This is 4 people who like each other. This is not competitive at all. This is really cool. And then you find camaraderie with the people you're working with. You watch the team of Secret Service agents, of the military, of the medical unit, of the aides who got to make sure things are tight and ready, the people who take care of the grounds. You're clear. You're on a huge team.
Is there a moment or two while you were in that you had the opportunity to photograph that really, still has a very special place in your heart?
Yeah, for sure. That day President Clinton cried when Prime Minister Israel was killed. It was on a weekend, and he was out, putting on the golf little thing there. And then Harold Ickes had to come out and tell him what had happened. And man just sobbed. The most wonderful thing about him and her is all the people they meet and the friendships they make. Real friendships. It's wild watching people going from being tentative when we first meet them. By the time we're getting out of office, hey, hello, we all know each other quite well with the foreign dignitaries and the people we see again and again who are in charge of security, even for other countries. And then, of course, as we travel across the United States, the retired Secret Service agents are manning the Secret Service offices in those various cities. So you end up picking right up where you left off at, and the friendships and longevity of what you serve to do. I used to read encyclopedias just for the pictures when I was growing up. And I'd get upset when I'd say, well, whose photo is this? And you can't see it. But I'm a music person then. I just want to know who took the picture.
Right.
So as I get involved with photography, then I'm like, well, nobody gets their credit. What am I worried about? I should stay a musician. Because I was playing bassoon. I was quite happy till I found out they wouldn't let women into the marching band. Even though I could outplay those boys on that clarinet. I couldn't play in the marching band.
Panama, you bought that? Yeah. That's cool. Panama's a musician, actually. Or she's a sound engineer. Yeah.
Very cool. What do you play?
Well, I play a little bit of drums, but my voice is mainly my voice is mainly my instrument. I actually studied vocal jazz in college.
Nice.
Oh, I'm a big fan of Davy Yarborough.
Oh, he's amazing.
And Esther Williams, and they keep me on the good foot.
They're amazing mentors on the DC scene.
They are wonderful. Awesome. I can go over to their house and drink wine, have some fun.
There you go.
They are cool, and everything he does and she does with those wonderful children, it's fun to watch them grow up to have jazz careers now.
Yeah.
It's just great.
Were you around when Bohemian Caverns was still open?
I was.
Yeah.
I miss it.
Miss that place.
Oh, terribly.
Yeah, very much so.
Terribly.
My wife and I went on one of our first dates there.
Oh, nice.
Some of the best pictures I shot of musicians were in the Bohemian Caverns.
That's a great place.
Especially in the basement with them stalactites.
That's cool. Let's talk about today a little bit. And, you were kind enough to share some of your work with me, and you do a lot of events and cool stuff. You're still doing some government work down at the house, but you're also doing great stuff like boxing and, of course, corporate events. So tell me a little bit about, I saw that one boxing image where you photographed a guy who was getting his eye kind of treated after he got punched pretty bad and he's bleeding. What's it like to shoot an event like that?
It's exciting.
Yeah.
The adrenaline, I get a rush, and I'm not the one getting hit.
Right.
But I love sports. My father was a phys ed teacher when I was growing up. He had the JV basketball team and the huge varsity team for football. That's one reason why I went to Ohio State, because I'm a Buckeye to the day I die, and I love all sports. When I was in school, Woody Hayes was the coach. He won at all costs. My boyfriend said, Sharon, I'm transferring to Nebraska. I said, why? Want to go with me? No. And then he says, I told Woody my books come first, so I'm riding the bench the rest of the season. I said, Mallory, love you, feel bad. I am not leaving Ohio State because Ohio State was good for me. And plus, I wouldn't have discovered photography the way I did without the way the community at Ohio State and the neighborhoods were.
When did you graduate? Sorry to ask.
I graduated in December of 1974.
So you were around during Kent State then?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And that's when we realized that not only was the governor crazy, talking about roads, but the administration at Ohio State was off the chain too, because they would not understand for the life of them that students who are paying those tuitions, their parents are working hard, have very good ideas about how to do some things a little different.
Right.
And you don't even want the input, but you want your salary. Everybody who paid tax dollars into the state of Ohio did not get their monies returned. Their kids did not get the scholarship help they needed. We had to fight with people not to be discriminatory about how funds were handed out. I ain't forgotten nothing.
Right.
Man.
Wow. Yeah, it was a troubling time, and some of the imagery coming out, that was insane.
And you would kill your students? You would shoot?
Unbelievable. Yep. I've walked and seen the chalk lines. They are still there. They still have markers there. So also when you've been to the house and you've shot AOC and Cummings, and how is that different now compared to when you were shooting Clinton, or is it still the same stuff?
It's still the same. It's just different folks pushing the different issues, some more daringly than others, some willing to be held more accountable than others. It's a beautiful thing that democracy can go on. The worst part would have been if those folks had acted like the same old folk I'm used to how they act.
You're right.
We need badly some new blood in government and in people helping government get over its hump.
Yeah, that's an interesting issue. And I did my best not to ask you about Trump because, I mean, I feel like everything's so contrived.
And you already know my opinion.
Right. And most people probably know mine too.
See?
Yep. But with an event, what do you feel like is the most important part of capturing that spirit, of an event? I mean, I noticed a lot of your shots have like really awesome wide angle takes on things. So you tend to not just get the person, but you get them framed in the scene pretty nicely. Is there a reason for that? Why you approach photographs that way?
You have to. Otherwise, you have no concept of the magnitude of what's going on. And if it's not the magnitude, then show the littletude. There's all kinds of ways to show sizes. Do I feel the enthusiasm of the people who are attending the event? And I don't stay in one place. I'm walking around. I'm looking at that whole room, that whole venue. My bailiwick. Let's get it.
You're right.
So the more I move, the more I see. And it's like any good composition. What is the background? What makes you get an idea as to the size of this event or the level of enthusiasm? After that, break it down some more. Smaller groups of people. Are they communicating with each other? Are they all focused on something that has gotten their attention because it's so hot to try?
Right.
Or the other thing is you got two people working together. They don't care what the heck is going on around there. Can you show the intensity of that?
Right.
So we're talking about wide, middle, close-up shots. Now, that's 3 shots right there. The other 2 are gravy. One of those 2 may open the 5 series or it may close it. But you got options. And if you don't look at it in terms of 5s, then you're not going to have that magic number.
Right.
Because there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. And everybody doesn't have all day long to pretend like they're watching Instagram for every shot going on. No.
Right.
How many different ways can you shoot that fried chicken?
Right. It's boring, right? It gets boring after a while.
Well, the other thing is everybody's trying to copy each other.
Oh, it's bad.
And what things look like. So you take away what I call the nuts and bolts, the grit of photography. Photography has grit.
100%. It should. If it's going to stand out, if it's going to be different, I absolutely feel like you have to add an edge to it. You have to add some sort of distinct, why am I showing you this photo? Otherwise, I shouldn't publish it.
Purpose. It's still about purpose,
Right.
at least in your brain somewhere. And a picture's still worth 1,000 words. Can that picture tell your 1,000 words? Does it get at least 500 words? Less than that, don't show it.
So back to this concept of the 5. So when you're storytelling from an event, you like to frame a story in 5 shots. Is that correct? And you usually set the story with a wide angle or a middle shot, and then you get into close and start showing some of the things that are happening. And then you close it.
And then you close it. You want to go in and out.
That's awesome.
You don't want one wide shot after another. No. You don't want the same person one shot after another. No. Can you shoot that person at a different angle? Get up and walk over there. And yes, you can. But if you stay in the same spot, shooting everybody from the same spot, go ahead. You might as well shoot off both feet and your eyeballs because you're not getting it.
There you go, boys and girls. Some hardcore advice from Ms. Sharon Farmer. Sharon, let's wrap up with Instagram a little bit because you and I had a funny conversation pre-show when we were walking through what we were going to discuss. And so I have a lot of the same feelings about Instagram where it's like a necessary evil for me from a marketing standpoint. But even some of the stuff I put up there, I did a whole bunch of cherry blossom shots this time. But I really tried to do something different with it, with my edits, and add some like crazy toning to it and kind of give it like an acid atomic look to it. But every other shot that seemed to make it was extraordinarily cliched. And this seems to be what happens a lot with Instagram, where you either have like these, everybody's got the same portrait approach, or they've got the same food shot, or they got the same oversaturated sunrise or sunset. What is Instagram doing to photography, or is it even anything to do with photography?
It has a lot to do with ego. I did this. I see a lot of eyes was there. You wasn't there. I was there.
Right.
And so it's a boastful kind of way, but there's no way to respond to the gauntlet thrown when you really want to say, I know a badass picture more than 50 years older than this, that's better than this. But you it takes time to go pull it up and do that stuff.
Right.
This is an easy way not to learn something. If you are not learning how to use that camera in that phone better than you've been doing it, if you've chosen not to look up 1-2 YouTube lesson about the things you could do with that camera, then you're not appreciating the art of these images. You are also wasting your good brain power to being stuck in a rut. You're doing the same thing over and over again. And if you do something you saw somebody else do, okay, imitation is supposed to be what? The greater glory of what? I don't think so.
Right.
So you deny yourself a chance to grow. You deny yourself a chance to have those brain waves fire off a different kind of way than the usual way. Don't you want to be different? I do.
Sharon, parting thoughts before we wrap this up?
I look forward to focusing on the story because we don't have enough things that last past a day or two consistently about image making in this historical town that we all live in and call home. We work here, we play here, we live here. And we should all talk about the visuals of what makes this a great city and gives us a great attitude.
There you go, folks. So there's the legendary Sharon Farmer, and you can see her at Focus on the Story conference, which kicks off the Click DC Photo Festival, which will go on for the entire month of June. I promise to put in URLs at the end of the video version of the podcast, as well as in the description. Thank you so much, Sharon. Really appreciate you coming on in.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, engineer.
Thank you, Panama.
Yeah, baby. Thank y'all.
Cool.
Thanks for listening to the Show Me podcast with Geoff Livingston. More shows, sponsorship, and donation information are available at showmepodcast.com.